Spider-Man and Deadpool are fan-favorite comic book pairing, and we can all see why. Come on, they're both a perfect match of funny wise guys who fight crime, even though they both have different methods of doing so. This hilarious duo has had a lot going for them in the comics. We're talking about crazy team-up series, going up against even crazier villains, and in fact going toe-to-toe against themselves on a number of occasions. Yeah, that's not shocking at all. But here's a shock for you. Deadpool once had to fight Spider-Man to save him from himself. Yeah, you're definitely wondering, how does that even work? Well, quit trying to figure it out, because we've got you covered. Let's get after it. Having Deadpool and Spider-Man share pages in comic books used to be a rarity, a real wonder. But the jokes between characters were all hitting hard, and boy did we get a lot of them. As years passed, the two crossed paths more and more until it reached a point where Marvel went, yeah, these two are great, and we have to do something entirely new with their alliance, something that goes further than just your regular superhero team-up. But this new story arc was more than just another crazy adventure or rescue mission. This one had more meaning. Over the years, Peter has kind of built this legacy of facing genetically modified foes. You know, the Green Goblin, Sandman, Doc Ock, the Lizard, Rhino, the list goes on. But out of all those guys, one of the most dangerous he's probably ever faced came from his own DNA, and just to spice things up a bit, Deadpool's also. Yeah, you heard that right. Marvel took a crazy leap here and gave Deadpool and Spidey a weird sci-fi daughter, appropriately named Itsy Bitsy, as a reference to the children's Itsy Bitsy Spider rhyme. But don't let the cute name fool you. Itsy Bitsy is one gross killer. She's powerful, violent, and quite frankly an icky spider-human mutant created from the merged DNA profiles of Wade Wilson and Peter Parker, pretty much making them parents to a homicidal mutant. The arrival of Itsy Bitsy in their lives explored a totally different dynamic to their team-up, but before going any further, we'll have to take a short trip down memory lane. Itsy Bitsy made her comic book debut in Spider-Man Deadpool Volume 1, Issue 8. Before becoming Spidey and Deadpool hater number 1, Itsy Bitsy was just a psychopathic human, kind of like most villains before they become powerful. Moving on, she decided to become a volunteer for Patient Zero's experimentation. Patient Zero, who was formerly the villain Weasel and had an unfathomable obsession with destroying Deadpool and Spider-Man, created Ms. Bitsy via gene splicing. After the experiment, she eventually takes the name Susan Mary and gains the look of a blue-skinned, multiple-eyed and armed spider-human freak, and we are being nice with the description. Both Spidey and the Merc with a Mouth are in the dark about their new biological daughter until they all eventually have one big old family reunion. Spider-Man and Deadpool first meet Ms. Bitsy when she interrupts their battle with the hateful Hexad. Yeah, it really wasn't Marvel's day with these supervillains' name. However, upon joining in on the fight, Itsy Bitsy kills Hexad members Beerboar Guy, the Ox, and Gibbon, all while singing the children's rhyme Itsy Bitsy Spider. So Peter goes on to name her Itsy Bitsy. Certainly not too clever from Peter. Well, it is revealed later that Itsy Bitsy has all of Spidey's abilities, including the Spidey sense and a mutated form of Man-Spider. She also possesses Deadpool's extreme healing and regenerative powers, and even his penchant for using swords. She really is their carbon copy. Well, like these powers weren't already enough, she can also spit acid. All in all, Ms. Bitsy is one powerful, deranged, and kinda gross villain. You get the idea, right? The initial idea behind Bitsy's creation was to assassinate both Spidey and Deadpool, but that changed, because now Little Miss Acid Spit wanted to team up with her DNA donors and convince them that her murderous ways were the only way to be good heroes. But neither Peter nor Wade agreed. Now you're definitely wondering, Deadpool should be fine with this, after all he does kill people. Well, he wasn't actually, mainly because of his pal Spidey. As it turns out, Peter was able to convince Wade to give up killing. Yep, Spidey was able to change the Merc with a Mouth, so taking down Itsy Bitsy without having to kill her was going to be really tough. Ms. Bitsy could get neither Spidey nor Deadpool to see her way of ridding the streets of crime, so she decided to kill them both. Yeah, that's cold. On top of her extreme methods, relentless and just downright grotesque, she also thought it was a good idea to go around killing in Deadpool and Spider-Man's names. An idea that genuinely pushed Spidey right to the edge and made him consider having to kill Little Miss Acid Spit. Maybe a bit of Deadpool rubbed off on our boy Peter, but he must have been really pissed even to have to consider this. To make matters much worse, we later find out that Patient Zero had an ulterior motive the whole time. Patient Zero pretty much struck a deal with Mephisto to bring him back to life in exchange for breaking our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man by creating someone he would be forced to kill. You know what? Let's shine a bit more light on how and why Mephisto ties into all of this. To do this effectively, we'll have to go back a bit to the events of One More Day, a 4-part comic book crossover event that took place in 2007. In this, Aunt May is shot by a stray bullet by one of Kingpin's goons and is dying slowly. Peter, who had lost way too much already, wasn't going to sit around and watch his aunt die, so he goes around asking everyone he could for help. From fellow heroes like Tony Stark, Reed Richards, and Doctor Strange to Doctor Doom, the High Evolutionary, and even Doc Ock. But it was all a waste of time until he eventually encounters the demon Mephisto. Spidey encounters Mephisto as a little girl, and he shows Peter alternate versions of himself from different timelines where he never becomes the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man we all know. Mephisto tells Peter that he can save his aunt, but he has to get something in return. Now the question is, what could a human like Peter have that could benefit Mephisto? Probably his soul, you'd think. Well, here comes the shock. Mephisto didn't want Peter's soul. As payment, he wanted Spidey's marriage to Mary Jane. Yeah, that's cold. Peter and Mary Jane, after several hours of deliberation, eventually agrees to Mephisto's sick deal. But the good news to all of this was that Mephisto, as conniving as he is, still kept to his part of the deal, bringing back dear old Aunt May and changing history so the two lovebirds never met. At this point, we all thought Mephisto was done with Peter, but as things turned out, we were quite wrong. To get those senses tingling for some more comic book stories encounters and more like this one, don't forget to like, comment, and web up that subscribe button to our channel. Well, swinging on ahead. A while after his deal with Peter, Mephisto struck another deal with Weasel after he was killed by Macho Gomez. He offers to return Weasel to the land of the living if he takes part in some crazy plot to ensure he gets hold of Spidey's soul. What's this dude's deal with Spider-Man anyway? Under the moniker Patient Zero, Weasel sets out to complete Mephisto's ground plan. Well, now you know how Mephisto and Weasel tie into all of this, so let's get right back on track. Itsy Bitsy was on a rampage, literally killing her way through New York's criminal underworld. Horrified by her actions, Spider-Man decided to take a step no one could have ever predicted he would. Spidey saw no other way out of this one, so he builds a superior version of Spider-Man Mark II and carries a plasma breeder with one thought in mind: kill my daughter. Yeah, it's more gruesome when you put it like that, but you get the idea. Well, Deadpool, on the other hand, didn't. Deadpool didn't want Spider-Man, his closest pal, crossing that line. You know, taking a step that will forever change who he is. Now you definitely get our topic. Twist of fate, right? Well, both guys went back and forth on this for quite some time, honestly, but Deadpool wasn't going to back down. As Wade said, "I'm not letting you throw everything away for this one psychopath." This was definitely a result of Deadpool's obsession with Spidey, but Peter's mind was already made up. So Spider-Man somehow lured Ms. Bitsy to a pier where he planned on finishing her off, and he in fact almost succeeded in completely disintegrating her. He had already atomized her lower body before Deadpool stepped in to stop him. And yeah, they had to battle this one out. While this happened, Mephisto watched on from hell as his plot was certainly almost complete. The fight went on for some time, with both characters holding back only a bit. As the fight waged on, Itsy Bitsy tried regenerating enough of her body to escape. However, Spidey knocked her down and tries pushing her through the plasma breeder to complete his mission. But Deadpool wasn't going to allow that. So he decides to sacrifice his murder sobriety to save Peter's soul. Aw, that's touching. Before Spidey can push her through the plasma breeder, Deadpool sucker punches him and throws up a smokescreen, distracting him and even Bitsy long enough for him to throw her into the death trap, seemingly killing her and rescuing Peter's pure soul. In the closing pages of this one, Deadpool and Spider-Man reconcile, and Spidey even thanks Wade for the person and friend he's become. They even ended things with a hug that Wade eventually made weird, but it still pretty much served its purpose. So this story ends with Deadpool becoming an even better person through his best pal Peter, and Spidey realizing that people can change. So now you get why this was more than just a crazy adventure, right? In the end, if you look past the hijinks, and there are a lot of hijinks, and Deadpool's weird obsession, of course, you'll find one solid superhero tag team.